if you're not on the panel and you graduated from Weber High School or got kicked out of Weber High School, please stand. If you went to Weber High School and then went back and worked at Weber High School and you're on the panel or not, please stand.
Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
People ask the question, what does it mean to bleed green and all that stuff? We just love our school. No matter what era we went, and we tried to make it a very diverse group of people coming to speak before you today, who expanded maybe, I think, about 20 or 30 or John 40 years of Weber High School tradition. So let me introduce them to you, andLl start from the elder gentleman, Mr. John Lobon, if you come and have a seat up here, please. Weber High School, 1968. Miss Emily Noel, class of 1975. Mr. Kyle Anderson, class of 1980. Coach Rob Fleeting, class of 1988. Tim Oliver, 1992. Miss Shontay Browdy, 1993. I'm sorry, I don't want to, I'm not trying to tell people how old you are. So, Karraine Moody, class of 1997. Jason Farquharson, 1999. Get the young hookers right now. Ashley Daley, 2008. Mr. Noel, he actually is in school. He's a senior at Central Connecticut. I'm glad I have a very special guest that I want to come up, and that is this man's time at Weber High School spanned a lot of years. I think it's important that we bring an administrator or teacher as well up here, and that to be Mr. Tom Butterfield, who's dressed to go running right after he leaves here today. Mr. Butterfield. Here's a question I'm hearing. What does it mean to bleed green? So please share about the Weber experience and more John Logan, who's always ready to talk and very prepared. I'll give you this one.
Thank you, Lee, for the invitation. I guess I'm the elder up here, as you called me. Yeah, I've been going 49 years from Weber High. When you talk old Weber, new Weber, that's bricks and mortar. When you talk about Weber, you talk about the spirit. And back in the 60s, when I attended Weber, it was at the time when change was in the air. When I attended Weber, Weavers were commonly white. As I progressed through the high school, it flipped. So when we talk about diversity, I already know about diversity. I was already in a diverse school. And I think there's two areas where you understand the bleed green. The bleed green is, I think our teachers in those days were teachers. Now, I'm not discouraging anyone or talking about it, but they were preparing us for the next level. They gave us what we needed if we chose to accept. Learning is a give and take. If you're willing to learn, they were willing to teach. But I think where you get the bleed green is through the athletics. Athletics tends to bring camaraderie no matter who is student. If you're just if you're an athlete or a student, we're all encompasses as one. I had the opportunity to be a part of an environment that was growing. Weaver was still ranked one of the top high schools in this country at the time I attended. And we had some greats that came through it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about those particular greats as well. But I can talk about my time, 64 to 68, when Weaver was community as well. Not only was his students involved, but our families, our siblings, we're all collectively one. That's what bleed green means to me, is that we are one. We're one then, we're one now. When I participated in football for Weaver High School, we became the first state championship team in Weaver history. I lost 3 games at Weaver High in 3 years. I also was involved in relationship to the various other programs and that we utilized at Weaver, whether it was the Boys Club, the Letterman's Club. I was president of both. But what I found that was so enthusiastic was no matter if I was a football player, or if you was a basketball player, you ran track and baseball, we all supported each other. We traveled the state as a school. Back then, we were known as the CDC, Capital District Conference. So we played schools down, we played London, Norwich, Fitch. So we just wasn't local, we traveled the state. What we were able to do was, we took our name, Weaver, and put fear in their hearts. When we went, wherever we traveled, Weaver got the kudos. We were state champs. I fortunately was able to grow from that as an all-state, all-conference player as well. But it was when we had a football game and I showed young people my album, you couldn't find a seat at Dillon Stadium. Then that's a little bit different. If you went to a basketball game, you didn't get there early, you didn't get a seat. That made no difference whether we were playing at home or away. But the thing was, we traveled as a team, we traveled as a community, no matter what we did. So, green, I'm green. I've been green for 49 years. And I'll be green until I die. So, I think all the others here will go down that same lane. As Kyle said, give me the mic, I won't give it up, but that's okay. Because I got plenty I can say. But at this point, I am Weaver, Beaver, and our theme for my senior year was Weaver High is mellow. That was our theme.
one of the ladies right now, Karraine Moody. And I'll have them all introduce and tell you what they've done after Weaver High School. I think we want to get this piece over. Miss Moody, you've been in this area. I'm sorry. What is your vision for the new Weaver High School, more specifically? How can the work group ensure all 900 students will receive a high-quality education? Talk about that, Susan.
Good evening. So the question is, how can we ensure that all 900 students receive a quality education? My experience with Weaver was unique in the fact that I had recently migrated or moved from Miami to Hartford, Connecticut. So it was my first experience in public school. It was my first experience being, I was typically the only black student. So for me, coming to Weaver was this awesome experience of culture, identity, inclusion, support. It was just this overwhelming experience of, wow, this is what we can do. This is what we can be. And it was a great experience. So for me, I would say that same level of support, love, confidence that was bestowed upon me and my classmates is what it's going to take for the 900 students to have that cohesive, unified experience. I would say this, I think when we were going through the work groups, one of the things that I strongly advocate for is the fact that we do need to have these individualized plans for all of our students so that they do not get lost in the shuffle. I remember when I first came to Weaver, it was pretty clear that, similar to what my panel mate said, is that if you were willing and you had the heart to take advantage of all the opportunities that were presented to you, then it was an open field. And so part of that is creating the opportunities for all of the students to feel that inclusion and also know that there's the support there. I can't speak, it's just limitless in terms of what the possibilities are. I think the fact that all the 3 different schools have such different pieces, but I do think that they do reflect Weaver. So when you think about the performing arts at Kinsella, Weaver was known for having this dynamic art program, and even when it came to journalism and writing, some of my English teachers, I just could not believe that they were not published writers because of just the skill there. So I know that although it may seem like they're 3 different schools and that they do not reflect the total, I would encourage you to reconsider, because all 3 pieces equal what Weaver was for my generation, and most likely for the generations that's also represented on this panel. So if I was to wrap it up, I would say this: it requires that same level of commitment, that when a student walks in the door, that they're treated the same, that they're given the same opportunities, and that there has to be a plan for each student. And so that's what's going to make the difference between, someone making it and someone not making it. I also had the opportunity to work for Hartford Board of Education for a few years and work with students that were emerging from level 1, level 2 CMTs. And the difference was having that peer person there to help the students who were not high performing, to make sure that they still had someone in their corner to advocate for them if mommy and daddy were not doing it. So even all of that goes together. That's how you're going to have a cohesive unit, so that regardless of 900 students, everyone has the same experience. I know when I was at Weaver, it probably felt like there was thousands of people there. But it was still very small in terms of you can ask someone who was the next person. And although it was big, you still didn't feel like that. There was still some level of camaraderie between the different classes that enabled you to be comfortable enough to succeed. Thank you.
So let's get back on the topic on the experience of Weaver High School, Weaver experience. How has your life been positively impacted because of your Weaver experience? Anybody want that question? Do I have to choose somebody? Before you do, sir, just walked in. young man. This is one of my classmates. His name is Jeffrey Israel. Graduate. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. My name is Jeff Israel, and a class of 1970.
1970. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good afternoon. When I entered Weaver, sadly to say, less than a year prior to me entering Weaver, I lost my brother due to violence. So it was, I had teachers who were able to love me. I truly believe my teachers loved me at Weaver. Like there was no doubt about that. That was the year that if you were leaving Fox Middle, Weaver decided that, and I guess Weaver and Fox Middle decided that they would have something called core, and it was 2 cohorts. So it was 2 groups, and for 2 years you would have the same math, you would travel with the same students. You would have the same math, English, social studies, and science. But then your junior year, you were able to just be free. So the idea, I'm assuming, and they told us, because we were like, how did we get picked? Because we didn't want to be in core. We wanted to just be in high school and be free. But they just said they picked every other name, and I was like, okay. But what it allowed us to experience is to be with those same teachers, and they were able to know our strengths, our weaknesses, focusing on some stuff from home. They just were able to be sort of like a little family. So for 2 years, that's what I experienced, and it was quite the, it was what I needed at the time in my life. And then for my later years, I just remembered I decided I wanted to be in business, so I was a part of the business department. And I would say being a part of the business department changed my life, because I had, and I'm assuming, I don't know if that's her mom, so I had Miss Oliver, I had Miss Berry, and then I had Mary Pruitt. And Mary Pruitt is who I wanted to be like. Like, I just wanted to be her. I actually went to college first thinking my major was business education. She told us, I mean, we learned things that I just didn't think other kids in other schools was learning, because you know how you underwrite insurance? We underwrote insurance, not using computer programs. Like, we had the big books. So if you were saying you had this individual with this age, this sex, this town, you had to look it up in a big book so you can rate them to see what their insurance rates would be. Like, I was like, and she loved us, and she told us, like, it wasn't a matter of if you was going to college, what college you going to. You're going to go down to the guidance office. Ms. Hutchison was my counselor. So you tell Ms. Hutchison, this is what you need. We weren't able to choose if we were going to college. She sought out insurance companies for us to have internships, for us to have scholarships. Ms. Berry taught us to type. Like, we truly received what I think was an excellent education. And I went to college prepared. Like, I hear a lot of students saying, and adults and everybody saying when kids go to college, they have to, like, take remedial classes. I went into college it was no special classes that I had to take. So I just think it was more than just a school experience. It was, you had teachers truly loving on you. Like, I felt my teachers, black and white, the same. Mr. Carr, I thought he really loved, like, you got the feel. So I'm thinking, if our students would experience that, then I think they'll be okay.
Since you mentioned Mr. Carr, stand up, please. Mr. Carr, yeah, he's here. Mr. Carr, I think we got Weaver for how many years, Mr. Carr? 35. 35 years. Weaver High School.
And he taught us how to develop film. It was a dark room. We took our own pictures. We
Yeah. Kyle, I'm coming down to you. I think you have a microphone. Hopefully that works. Talk about some of the programs and things that you had the opportunity to take when you were at Weaver High School.
Is this on? Is this on? All right, I'll use my coaching voice. Oh.
I told you, don't sit next to John Lobon. You won't get it back. You won't get it back. This is awesome. Thank you for putting this on, Lee and everyone else, because this is a chance. Someone talked about bleeding green, Kelly Green. We all on this panel, my panelists, as I look, and I sit next to this lady, her mother took care of us, okay? Took care of us, guided us in the right direction. And Mr. Kai talked about yearbook. Oh, well, I brought two. I brought my class of yearbook 1980, and I brought 1981, just to let you know how important it was to be a part of that school. I'd like to recognize our class president, Val Donar. She is not only a Weaver class president in 1980, she was also there for 15 years teaching in the career development. So Val, talking about coming back to the school and giving back, Val was there. Our class, we meet every 5 years as a reunion. Class of 80, we've been having our reunions every 5 years. Next year we're taking a cruise. We do good things, class of 1980. I just want to talk about some of the academic activities that were at Weaver, because Mr. Lobon touched upon the athletics and what it's about now. He played more sports than I did, but I was the captain of football and basketball my senior year, and I ran track and I played baseball for 2 days. And let me tell you why I played baseball for 2 days in my senior year. We had a superintendent, her name was Dr. Edith Gaines. First African-American female superintendent in the city of Hartford. Well, she was fired. And people in the community said that's a travesty because she was doing an excellent job. At the time, my mother was a sitting council person. I'm second generation council member. My mother was a part of the city council at the time, and she said, let's put together a community protest. Well, being one of her 4 sons, yeah, participate in the protest. Ma, I just made the baseball team. You're going to Union Baptist Church for that when we had first home-based schooling. Because not only did we protest, the parents protested to the firing of Dr. Edith Gaines, but we said, okay, you're not going to stay at home and not learn. No, you're going to do homeschool at this community church. Most of the members of the church were what? Weaver faculty, or faculty from other schools, because they lived in the community where they taught. Okay, very important. So, very quickly, I told you, I'm not going to give it back either. Emily's not getting this microphone. No, she's looking at me all funny for. She's not getting this microphone. So let's talk about some of the enrichment programs that I participated in at Weaver. Not only were they athletic, but they were academics. We had Higher Horizons. We had the National Honor Society. We had Boys State. For those who didn't know what Boys State was, that got me into politics, because that was a learning, development, leadership program. It was Boys State and Girls State, but it was held in New London at the Coast Guard Academy. We had 3 representatives come from our school. Lamar Harrell, Bishop Victor Rush, and myself was that year. We went as juniors. There we learned about government. We learned from government from the municipal level all the way to the governor races. And at the time, the governor at the time, Ella Grouser was our sitting governor at that time at Boys State. It was very similar. It was something that was going across the nation that was developed by the legislature, but because of funding, it got cut. Let's talk about the clubs. Now, there were so many clubs at Weaver. I think when you look at the magnet schools and the theme schools, they were based from all the clubs and activities that were happening at Weaver. Journalism, media. Well, we had Mr. Cooper. We had the radio station. That was a class. We had Mr. Carr did the yearbook. I still have Mr. Carr here with the same mission here. Now I'm joining his club with no hair, but this club was in this book. I brought this book with validation to say, okay, these are all these activities going on at the school. You didn't have to play sports to bleed Weaver green. because there was other things for you to do. There was dance, there was music, there was Mrs. Martin was just recognized by the Deltas this past weekend for being one of the outstanding music teachers in this region. She taught piano before Artists Collective and a part of Artists Collective. So there was a lot of things that if you weren't that inclusion, that jock, you still were able to participate and be engaged in a school that you love. So Lee's giving me the hook, so I see that. So I'm gonna, this is what I had to recognize everybody here, but I brought my yearbook and it's still together. And because I reflect on, that's your mom, I reflect on a lot of people. And I just want to say thank you to the panel for having me, and I'll let somebody else start. I'm good for the day.
Just so you can get it on camera. Could you have obtained a similar experience at another school, Ms. Noel? Why or why not? And then when you graduated from Weaver, how prepared were you for college? And
I guess the one thing I'm going to have to say is I was invited to this panel because I am a Weaver graduate. And so the answer to both of those questions is yes, I felt I was prepared. I went off to 4 years of college and came back with a teaching degree. But I think for me, I can't think of my Weaver experience without thinking of the 20-something years that I taught there. And so listening to some of the other panelists, I sort of look at that community that we had and what it meant to bleed green was that feeling of faculty, the feeling of a family just across the board, both in the community in terms of parents and students, but also on the faculty. I've gone on to teach at several other schools, and every once in a while I'll come across a fellow teacher at Weaver, and never ever in my experience have I had the same kind of family feeling and commitment to students that I had at Weaver High School. And I, in sort of looking forward, I'm jumping down to the bottom, I'm sorry, I'm not answering the question you asked me to, but in terms of how do you go forward and make the new Weaver High School encompass that, I think you have a humongous task because you have 3 separate schools in one building. And I think to create, I've seen some of the leadership positions, the people who have come up and become leaders, it's because they were able to be president of the FBLA or president of their class. I think of students who I worked with as class activities who have now gone on to leadership positions, and I look back and I say their experiences leading fellow students in activities was part of what helped give them the skills that they then took on to go out into the community. And doing that in a place where you have 3 separate schools, that's going to be tough. Because having having a feelness of one is really what was important across the board and everything that I think back on to what it meant to bleed green. We were all in this together, arms together, doing whatever it was we were tackling. We were one, and I think I look back at that and I think that was a really huge, big part of what it meant to bleed green.
that's okay, I'll get Rob to answer this question. Coach Peter.
What were your experience? Well,
I got the question.
could you have attained a similar experience at another school?
I don't think anybody could obtain the Weaver High School experience. My first experience with Weaver High School came when I was in elementary school, when I was standing on the corner of Westbourne Parkway and Granby Street, and I saw some of the kids, high school kids, leaving with their football helmets in their hand, walking down Granby Street. I said to some of the guys, "Where you guys going?" They said, "We're getting ready for the parade. It's homecoming." That's right. And so, parade, homecoming. So a couple hours later, me and my friends ran up to the top of Westbourne Parkway, standing there. We were getting excited that the parade's coming. So we saw the band come by. I'd never heard any music like that before in my life. And we saw the football team come by. And I swear to this day, I've never had a vision of going to the NFL or a vision of going to Major League Baseball. My dream was always to go to Weaver High School and play football. Just because the parade, the community, how everybody came together, I was like, wow, this is it. Me and my friends were talking about, hey, when I go to Weaver, and that was always the talk, when I go to Weaver. When I got to Weaver, I don't know, things are just, I mean, the Bleed Green to me was more about a community. I mean, the whole community, about parents, friends, meeting new people. Like the lady said, teachers who cared about me. I never for one day didn't think that my teachers cared about me, because they did. And it's weird when I, teaching different dishes and stuff. They're like, Weaver had to be rough. I'm like, nah, we didn't think of it like that. That was our house. Sometimes you have fights in the house, but everybody, like, I don't remember any teacher worrying about, well, you couldn't touch a teacher. All the kids, they'll hurt you. You cannot touch a teacher. I mean, teachers were family, and so it was just great being at Weaver High School. My senior year, I didn't know what I was going to do. The teacher said, what do you think you want to do? I said, I have no idea. He said, what do you want to do 5 years from now? I said, I think I want to come back and coach football at Weaver High School. He said, well, then you should probably be a teacher. I said, wow, and he got me thinking about teaching, and lo and behold, I became a teacher, but I didn't become a teacher because that's something that I always wanted to do. I think that everything that has happened in my life has to do with Weaver High School. I wanted to go to high school because I saw a parade that was put on by Weaver High School. I wanted to become a teacher and come back and coach football because I had love for being at Weaver High School. I think that when I was in college, we had a lot of state championship games at Southern Connecticut, high school championship games. And one of the saddest feelings I had, I was sitting in the bleachers watching, and I was like, man, why can't Weaver High School be up there? And so that was part of my goal. I said, I got to go back. I got to coach, too. I got to figure out how to be a coach at Weaver High School. And that's where I met Coach Hunt, Coach Hodge, and I volunteered my first 2 years. And when we went 3-7 and 3-7 and ended up becoming the #1 team in New England, winning a state championship. And I was just so happy being part of that staff because it just meant so much to me. It meant so much to the kids. And I know I'm talking about it from a sports angle, but I think everything needs to have teeth. And if sports is a part of, if sports has teeth, it really kills me when educators say, I always hear that, sports is not everything. You shouldn't just be thinking about sports to kids. But if sports is the thing that's going to get that kid to do what he needs to do, then let's use sports too. Whatever it takes, to have teeth to get kids. What a tough thing that I face all the time working in Windsor. One time it was out the football game. All coaches went out, we would have a drink and stuff like that. Some Weaver alumni came in, and they were like, yeah, Fleet, tell them you bleed green, right? And there was a bunch of Windsor parents in there. I said, no, he don't. No, he don't. You better tell him right now. I said, can you guys leave me alone for a second, please? I'm over here talking. They stopped the music, everything. They said, tell him right now what you bleed. I said, I bleed green. I bleed green. But they know, and I had no shame at all. It's not shame, it's pride. Even when I bump into people, we had in a conversation, they say, what school you went to? They said, I went to Harper High. I said, that's not your fault. I said, oh, they all say the same thing. They do different people. Oh, you must have went to Weaver with that attitude. Because they know we have a lot of pride. And one of my saddest things, the hardest thing I've had to do was to leave Weaver High School. And I think that when you believe in something so much and you see how it's being taken down for whatever reason it was, and for the stories that you hear, to me, Weaver was never a bad place. Weaver was a place of comfort. I don't know how the media portrayed it to be, but Weaver was always a place of comfort. I think that kids felt more safe in Weaver High School than they felt in their own communities because the teachers would take care of them. The teachers wouldn't let anything happen to you. Even your friends, they wouldn't let things happen to you. And like also Ms. Noel said, when I was in Weaver for the last 2 years, I say 2008, 2009, and those walls start going up and they start dividing it into academies, that wasn't my Weaver High School. I mean, they were stopping kids and staff saying, what are you doing on this side? I'm like, what? Like, this is not, it slowly just, it's like being in a house at home and everybody locking their doors. What happened to the camaraderie and everything? What happened to we're all on one? I understand that there are different academies and everything, but when you do that to something that means so much to people, you just start to eat it from the inside out. And that's what started to happen there. It was very hard for me to leave. And I just hope that, again, that it could be what it still is emotionally to us, you know. But our school at that time, I know they started to make it look bad, but I mean, at that time, Harvard Public lost its accreditation. Buckley was on probation, and I was sitting looking at the media saying, what's wrong with us? You know, how are we the worst thing in the city of Harvard? It didn't make any sense to me. And things just started to look bad. Kids were leaving. Everybody started to make the Magnet School seem as if that was the place, and something like a place like Weaver High School wasn't the place to be, and it really hurt me. I mean, hurt me, because I give, and a whole lot of people give so much of their time to the development of our kids. I'll just say this in ending, really what bleed green means to me, and like a lot of people who graduated from Weaver High School. My last 2 years coaching at Weaver High School, my second to last year, we had 24 kids on the team. And we made the state playoffs with 24 kids. And my last year there, we had 18 kids on the team. And I remember going to play against New Britain, and New Britain probably had 90 kids on the team. And it was getting ready for kickoff, and the official looked at me and said, "Coach, you better get your damn team out here. Get the rest of them." I said, "This is it." And so one of the parents holding the down marker said, "Good luck." And one of our kids looked at him and said, "You just hold on. You're going to need that for yourself." And I think we beat them like 32-0. And that's what it meant to them, because if we were down or kids were tired, I would say, "You remember who you represent out there." And it wasn't just them. And I think that's the difference today. And I say that's the problem. Well, every place has its own problems, but as far as where I am now, when you did something for a kid at Weaver High School, as a teacher, those kids love you forever. Because all they want to do is know that they appreciate you. Kids change. Or maybe who I am has changed. But the things that I got from Weaver High School, that's who I am, and everybody knows it. And even today they say, I meet parents who are kids who play for me now, and they say, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. You the coach from Weaver?" I said, "Absolutely. All day."
I'm sorry, but this is great conversation, and we're just going to take a few more minutes, Miss Vicki. So, Kim Oliver, what are some of your concerns surrounding the new Weaver High School?
I got the hard question. I don't know how that happened. I was ready to tell you guys my story. Oh, okay.
Well, you can do that too.
Oh, okay. Well, I loved Weaver. I was Miss School Spirit. I had my green blanket out. I forgot to bring it today to show class in '92. So if you see me in the yearbook, you will see me several times with me, my pom-poms and my varsity jacket and all that good stuff. So I think one of the things that we talked about already, and especially being privileged to be a board member, it's really about making sure we are unified and that is one school. That's really critically important. And some of that has been taken care of in terms of structure, but we also do need it in spirit. And the board, we've talked a lot about what it means for it to be 3 schools in this one school building. And what does it mean to have shared space? What does it mean for students to all feel welcome in all spaces and all places of the school? And I think it really underscores what we've already touched upon, because when you're at Weaver, opportunities abound, right? You could do anything and be anything and everything. When I started with Weaver, I didn't know I was class president, I was the voice of Weaver. I got to say happy birthday to everybody in the morning, which was actually, you're the most popular student. I didn't know it at the time. The most popular student doing things like that. I had a great education at Weaver. I was ready. I went to Yale, and at the time, Yale was #1. And guess what? I was 3rd in my class, okay? And we thought we could do anything. And I think there was a togetherness, and when you talk about going to the games, and you used to scream, "Keep your hands up," because we're all about defense and basketball and all that. You did know everybody. I knew everybody. everybody at the school. You could walk through the halls. You were never afraid. People talked about Weaver, and it was like, you're lost. You're lost. I mean, when I went to Weaver, there were somewhere toward 1,200 or 1,400 students in that school, and you knew everybody. And people could talk to each other. You were in classes with people from different backgrounds and academics, and we had a blast. We had fun. You know, we talk about homecoming. We didn't have the parade, but it was a big deal, you know, homecoming, and did you know, were your classes ready? Were you? And it was a big deal. In fact, my junior year, we beat the seniors, and it was controversial. It was controversial, you know. So I think that it's things like that that's really, really important, that we talk about how we have this spirit and how do we keep the spirit and harness it and promote it with our young people. And at the same time, allow it to be okay that you are part of JMA or High School A or Kinsella, because many of these schools that we have today are the legacy of Weaver. And many of you guys already know those stories. I don't even have to go deep into them. These are our Weaver legacies. And Weaver has done so much for so many young people and so many families that I'm just so pleased to be a part of the rebirth, if you will. You know, I mean, I love JMA, but when they were like, oh, JMA is the new Weaver, I was like, oh, what? What happened to, no, we have a building. And, you know, and for some of you who know, being at the radio station, what it afforded me was I saw Weaver at the highest highs, and I also saw Weaver at some of the lowest lows. And when we were talking about the football team, I remember when there were less than 200 kids in the school. And when it was at 1,400, we couldn't fill the school. And it was at times very tough to be on the 5th floor all alone. And as some of you heard me say, I could have did a film like The Apocalypse at the time, because it just felt so empty and so abandoned. And yet, we still had spirit in our young people who were proud to be part of Weaver, who were proud to be part of the schools, the teachers who were proud of Weaver. So, you know, as a board member, I take the responsibility pretty seriously. You know, we've asked some questions, some have been harder than others. We've allowed others to ask questions through us and invite people to do that. But, you know, we have some hard work in front of us in terms of ensuring that we create, through our staffing model and our scheduling, to take advantage of this new great opportunity that we have coming in front of us. So how do we keep that spirit so that all of us, when we talk about bleeding green, that if you're the class of 2020 and beyond, you understand exactly what we're talking about. So I would say that is the challenge.
So we brought some young people as well here today, and I want to hear from them. Now that they've heard all these old people talking about Weaver Green and what that means, and so I want to hear from them in 2000 and beyond, how do they feel about that school and their experience. Miss Ashley, you ready?
Hello, everyone. So definitely hearing from everyone and the older classes, the athletic spirit was definitely there, still there. I wasn't part of the athletics, but they were very prideful, you know, especially the football, track, basketball. It was just such, you know, a great atmosphere for that. So it was still there for that type of spirit. Where I saw a lot of the concerns and developments needed was definitely academics. I love hearing that, you know, we have alums from Yale and all these different schools and how, you know, we were really prepared you. But I have to say, and, you know, fellow students in my years can say, we didn't feel that way. And I would say, so I went to Smith College, and I would say that I would have loved to have, like, we took AP writing, but AP writing in Weaver compared to writing in college was completely different. And I would say the academics. I would just love for it to be developed. I would love to be prepared. I would love it to be a Weaver where, you know, Kim Oliver, you're prepared for Yale and be top, you know, third in your class versus, you know, I go to a school like Smith and I feel like, wow, I have so much to do, you know, I have so much to make up for, so to speak, because, you know, I don't feel like I was on the same level as my, you know, other peers in my freshman class. So yeah, definitely, like I said, the spirit of Weaver is still there. Like, you guys are echoing that from the older classes for the athletics and stuff like that. People in my year, they're so excited next year for the 10th year reunion and all that good stuff. So people definitely are prideful for that. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want to get away from the academics and preparing students for career readiness, because as much as there's so many prideful people in my class for the year, there's so many people who, you know, I feel aren't where they want to be, and I really think that is attributed to the academic preparation. So.
And Jason, we're going to end with you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. This is how I usually introduce myself. My name is Jason Farquharson. I'm a proud graduate of Weaver High School. I want to let people know I went to probably the greatest high school ever. All right, so it's easy to say bleed green means a lot to a lot of people. Bleeding green saved a lot of people's lives. Bleeding green helped a lot of people first touch get their hands involved in civic activities, part of student council, senate, and so forth. Bleed green helped a lot of people get, you know, generate their own voices. And I say that because I bleed green because of two great teachers I had that are in this room, Mr. Epps and Mr. Carr. Mr. Carr had a joint class with Mr. Smith, who, if you guys know Mr. Smith, he's Mr. 89.9, smooth, sultry voice on the radio all the time. And they helped blow the doors open for me of becoming an artist. Mr. Epps at the time, and Mr. Brown, who people know as Mr. Jihad today, helped define what it was to become black and be powerful. Really, really huge parts of my growth at being Bleeding Green at Weaver High School. And helping to find my own voice was huge because I'm the youngest of three, two older sisters. No, I'm not the baby, I'm the youngest of three. And when you step into Weaver High School and you have to follow two older sisters, you don't have a name. Aren't you so-and-so little brother? Aren't you Adrian's little brother? Natalie's little brother? So my challenge was to be better than they were. And to, you know, come back home to my parents and, hey, I did this, I did that. And to this day, my jump shot is not better than my sister's jump shot. I kid you not. She was a great basketball player. Both of my sisters were great basketball players. My sister Natalie was a great cheerleader, and they all wanted to be great. And before you walk into the school, you hear about the Weaver, the urban myth of Weaver High School, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what's great about Bleeding Green, you become a part of the urban legend as soon as you cross that stage. You know what I'm saying? It's the pride of being great. Those who didn't have the ability to go to Weaver High School because they went to Hartford High or Buckley or Prince Tech, those were the only high schools at that time, right? They all wanted to be a part of Weaver because they would tell you how bad your school was, or you always talked about how many people graduated in your class. And it's always a competition at Weaver High School to be the best class. So class of 1999 would say we're the best graduating class of Weaver High School. 2000 would say something else. And those knuckleheads, the class of 98, they're always going to be knuckleheads to me, will say they're the best. You know, again, Bleeding Green is very, very important. You can't put it into words. You need to cultivate different graduation classes to understand what it meant to them. I played basketball my first 2 years. I ran cross country my senior year. I was part of the student council my senior year. I was involved in putting the yearbook together for my senior class, I wanted to make sure I left my mark at Weaver High School. I want to make sure that I left my mark in my math classes. I want to make sure I left my mark in my art classes. And being a part of that dark room, Mr. Carr class, and it was my first time I touched a computer to figure out what Illustrator was and Photoshop was. I had no idea that, you know, I can use that to this day to be an artist, to work in the architectural field and do those cool, super cool things. And if I didn't get a chance to go to Weaver High School, I don't think I would get a chance to have my own voice. I knew when I was going to go to college, it was going to be a huge culture shock. I went to Wentworth for 2 years. I graduated from the University of Hartford, undergrad, and my master's in architecture. I think my that's my dean in the back row. He's on his phone right now. It's crazy. When I went to college, you know, they tell me, you know, let's see your yearbook. They're flipping through the pages. They're trying to find a student that's not black. And they're like, wow, what was your school like? I said, my school was great. What was your school like? I went to a school where I had teachers that looked like me. What school did you go to? You know, and I think it's important for when these students walk into the building to have teachers and principals and guidance counselors that are social workers that doesn't plug a child into a class willy-nilly because they need to fill a spot, but they plug a child into a class or in a track that's good for their social makeup. We need to have individuals involved in the school that are passionate, that will, you know, that love us. And I felt that my teachers loved me. Even though some of the teachers maybe talked too much in their classroom. I think I talked a lot in Steph's classroom. Yeah, I did. Some of these teachers I gave a hard time, but when you have to run from the first floor to the fifth floor to get to a science class, and I think a lot of people can attest. 3 minutes. You know, for that bell ring, and then you don't have a pass, then you have to find that guidance counselor or that art teacher who will let you sit there for a little minute so you can, you know, recoup. But you don't get the experience until you walk into those doors. And I remember the first time I walked into that school, I knew I wanted to be a part of architecture. I got my first floor plans when I was in the 6th grade because I went to private school. Weaver High School was my first public school experience. I walked in that building and I said, something's wrong with the school. It doesn't feel right. It feels like it's supposed to be a controlled environment. And before I even knew who designed the school, it felt like it was a prison to me, and I'd never been in prison before. However, these children in this school find a way to excel and be great. We have a lot of greats that graduate from Weaver High School that come back to the school. And I think what is meant to be green is like when your first 3 year college, what a lot of the students will come back to, they'll come back and check out their teachers. They come back and check out their guidance counselors because we wanted to show these students that you can definitely graduate from the school. Don't worry about your circumstances. You can definitely leave here. You can graduate. You can find a good track and come back. So it was all about coming back to that school and showing our fellow students who believe that their class is the greatest because we competed in everything. We competed in battle of the classes. You know, the freshmen didn't have a voice because nobody wanted to hear them, but they couldn't wait to be a sophomore. They couldn't wait to be a junior that next year. They wanted to be the best class ever. We competed in everything. We competed in education, sports, and to this day, any barbershop, any salon, there's someone who graduated from Weaver High School, someone who went to Bloomfield, Windsor, and they'll talk about everything involved in their graduating classes. Every turkey game, you saw that gentleman that was 40 pounds lighter in high school, squeezing into that Letterman's jacket because he knew class of so-and-so was the best graduating class ever. And they're laughing because they know exactly what I'm talking about, right? But, and you know, battle of classes or the pep rally, you see Sullivan with that little small helmet and he had a tutu on. This is being recorded, but everybody knew when he came out, it was a big event because he wanted everybody to feel comfortable. We had a great experience, and it's all about education first, right? And I remember, I can't remember the principal. Before you get on, we do the Pledge of Allegiance and all that good stuff. You hear me in the intercom. We create inquisitive minds. And you felt like you didn't know what that was. You thought it was an everyday mantra, but you get it. I think when you graduate and you stay in Hartford and you see what they say about Hartford, and you see what they say about your school, and you said, no, there's no way. That's why I'm super excited to be a part of this process, because I want to change those negative images of my high school. I say mine. We all going to say my high school, because I know what it did for me. I know what it did for my friends who graduated in 2000, friends who graduated in 97, and so on, and some of the great individuals like Reggie Hatchett, who graduated, who's now coaching with one of the best basketball teams in the state. Please understand, he bleeds green, not on a basketball court, but he bleeds green because he's invested in these kids. And that's what teachers like Mr. Smith, Mr. Carr, Mr. Epps did for me, and I want you guys to understand that's what bleeding greens means. It's a family situation, and we love our school, and we're gonna make sure this school's great. Curriculum-wise, all across the board. My vision, my dream is to make sure Weaver is one of the top schools in the state of Connecticut. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna come back and volunteer, give my time, whatever I need to do, but I'm gonna bleed green. So, thank you.
We want to thank all the panelists, and please ask them questions, but I need to let Mr. Carr say something. 35 years at Weaver High School. You hear everybody talking about what he meant to them. My God, he was at Weaver when I was there. So, Mr. Carr, and then we'll close up this portion of the program.
Thank you, Lee. I was the visual art person, so I'm better with images than with words sometimes. I brought 3 yearbooks, Kyle. Oh, jeez. Including Lee Hunt's year. So after this is over, anybody want to get the scoop on Mr. Hunt? But from 1970, 1985, 1975, the day in the life of Weaver. It was a great place to be. There was a reason I was there 35 years. I miss it. But as Emily said, we were family. And the staff, we had some bad days, but because you were with your friends, because you were so supportive, it didn't matter. And graduations, I've been to other graduations and people shake hands. We hug. So before I break up here, I just want to say, please come look at some visuals when you get done. You will be amazed at how many activities were offered, how much was going on. We had a 1 or 2 or 3 years, every 2 weeks, the first period, I think it was Wednesday, was activity. And every teacher was required to either be a co-advisor or an advisor of a club. And every student was a member of a club. Well, the whole building was reflecting the interest of the teachers, the interest of the students. And in these books, you will see that those range from chess to hiking to macrame to whatever. It was a great place to be. And unfortunately, some of us get older, and retirement is a great place to be also. But it was a wonderful 35 years, and it left me with many, many friends from the staff and from the student body.
Just one final note. Not only did Mr. Carr teach at the school, Mr. Carr lived in the neighborhood. Mr. Carr lived in Blue Hills. Okay? All that time. We talk about teachers who live and work in the community. Great man. I want to thank all of you, and I'm going to turn this back over to Vicki. And thank all the panelists, please. And I didn't get a chance for you to meet them and ask them what they do now or what they've done, but we will end with that now.
One of the questions, let's give Mr. Hunt a round of applause for coordinating this. Real quick, someone just tell me some of the greats that came out of Weaver. Anyone?
Walked to Doc Hurley. Walked to Doc Hurley is probably the greatest, but we had a lot of greats. Okay, but that's why the field house is named after Doc Hurley. Okay, he's the only 4-letter winner in the history of Weaver High School or any high school in this state.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Jacob Lewis Fox.
Excellent. Excellent.
George B. Thomas.
Say that again.
George P. Thomas.
George P. Thomas. Anyone else?
Norman Lear.
Norman Lear. Okay, what I'd like to do to end this portion, if you could just say your name and what you're currently doing, if you're retired teacher, or whatever the occupation. So your name and your occupation or your activity that you're involved in right now.
John Carr, retired, mentoring a 19-year-old journalism academy young man who we are trying to get back to the old Weaver spirit.
Amen. Did you hear that? Amen.
My name is Ashley Daley. I'm currently a UConn law student, going into my final year.
Kyle Anderson, State Inspector, 26 years, past City Councilman.
Emily Noel, I retired from teaching after 36 years, and I'm back in the classroom volunteering and doing some tutoring in the classrooms.
John Lobon, retired after 29 years with the state, a member of the Syracuse 8 LLC. If you'd like to know about that, I do have a book that tells the story about the boycott of Syracuse University, which is something that I learned from Weaver High School. If you're a man, be a man.
Hi, I'm Kim Oliver. I am the director of the Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation for the City of Hartford, and also a Board of Ed member.
Rob Fleeting, special education teacher for 19 years, also former head football coach at Weaver High School.
Did you get that, Mr. McCauley? Yes, ma'am. All right.
Jason Farquharson, let's see, member of the North Hartford Education Task Force, Blue Hills Civic Association board member. I am up to my ears in my Hartford Paint City mural project. That's its goal is to put one mural in each one of our 14 neighborhoods in the city of Hartford, hopefully by the end of August, which is really aggressive. I'm looking to put these murals on city-owned property, which is a stipulation, so that schools, libraries, fire departments, rec centers, senior centers. So if you know of any fun location in any of the 14 neighborhoods that can be green lighted within the next few weeks, please see me. This project will definitely change the way people see Hartford, so it can change the way how people feel about Hartford. I've been one of the people who've been sick and tired of people hearing about how much potential Hartford has, and this project will blow those doors off with the idea of potential and show everyone that we do have greatness here. Sorry for taking all the time.
Shontay Browdy. For the last 10 years, I've been working with families in Hartford to help them amplify their voice and know how much power they have. Currently, I'm a clerk at Hartford Probate Court.
Karraine, Moody, Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity, Hartford County.
Got to stand up again, I guess. Tom Butterfield retired after 53 years teaching and coaching, and I didn't realize what the program was going to be as far as what I had to say about Weaver High School, my experience. All the years that I coached at Weaver High School, the main purpose was to have an education, make sure you pass your grades, and I think this is important. I know I didn't say something before, but in the city of Hartford, I got coaches together to put the C rule in for athletics. The state of Connecticut, you can pass 4 subjects with D's and you can compete in sports. Weaver High School, that was not enough because later on in life, an education was important. Lee told me to, because I got a lot of kids into college, I didn't. They got themselves into college because they did. I had a lot of Fox scholars, a lot of, go on and on and on. But there are over 20 colleges. Yale, I had kids go to Yale, Fox scholarship kids. They were all on some teams or another, and a lot happened because of the C rule, and that's very important. And when I first took over the programs, you would not believe the prejudice, I have to say it, by other towns and other coaches in the state of Connecticut against Weaver High School. And I had to try and help people realize that they were just teenage kids. They were the same as the ones you're coaching. I could go on and on. I won't do that. But after Weaver, when I retired, I went over to Hall High School because they wanted to have a coach over there. And a lot of people in West Hartford are Weaver graduates. Some of you gentlemen here who graduated, they were in your classes. And the opinions on the other side of the line, that they had to be educated too. So that's important. Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. Dr. Burks. As Dr. Burks is coming up, do you understand a little bit more why we wanted to have the panel? So that we could understand the quality, we could understand the traditions, we could understand the rigorous curriculum. Again, this is what we want to reproduce, and